Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I'm going to share a technique with you using the Stamparatus, and I call it setback stamping, and that's because when you look the actual stamping is on the layer below, and then above we've got sort of a frame, if you can just see, that's just on top, and so the stamping is set back into that little frame. So as I say, we are going to use the Stamparatus for this technique, and you need to choose a stamp set with a coordinating set of framelets. So I've chosen to use Petal Palette today, and it has Petals and More thinlit dies that coordinate with it. And I really like this stamp set. It's got some lovely images, but just as important, it's got some lovely words. And so with this particular card, you can see I've used best wishes, but we can also always use congratulations, thank you, and the like. So let me show you how we're gonna do this. So first of all, you need your Stamparatus, and I've set mine up because I'm using the red rubber stamp. I'm just working directly onto the surface of the Stamparatus, and I'm using a piece of the grid paper just to protect my surface. So I'm going to need a sheet of the cardstock in each of the colors that I'm stamping onto. And so I'm using the coral, and I'm also using very vanilla. So I'm going to be using the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm just going to ink up my stamp. Now I do have a video on the basics of using your Stamparatus, but just to remind you, we need to have it in the corner here. And just held down by the magnet. So I'm going to just bring that over and press firmly, and then I'm going to replace it with the piece of vanilla, and we want the image to be exactly the same place for this technique to work. So let's ink up again and then press firmly. Now with a Stamparatus, if your ink isn't dark enough, if you're not happy with that depth of color, then you just don't touch anything with your card. Just go back in, re-ink, and then flip over, and then just press firmly, and then you'll get more depth of your ink like that. So we're finished with the Stamparatus for this particular project. So the next thing that we're going to do is to use the die that coordinates with this particular flower, and just line it up, and then you're going to run that through the Big Shot. So I've done one ahead of time, so this is what it will look like when you pull it out of the Big Shot, and just flip that out. Now this we don't need unless you want to put it on another card, but this piece we need to keep, and that's going to be over go over the top here. Now to get the effect that I was showing you earlier, we're going to need to do a bit of trimming. So with this one, I've chosen to kind of have it meeting at the top but open at the bottom, and it's entirely up to you what you'd like to do. But I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to just line it up. This is my cutting groove. I'm just going to line it up so that the little, if you like, aperture cut out here is going to be well, I'm not going to cut through that bit. is what I'm trying to say, I think. So I'm just going to go like that, and then you can see I've got a little top bit, and I can do the same at the bottom if I wanted to, is to just so that it's a complete frame. But with this end, I'm going to have it so that it's kind of sort of hanging out of the bottom here. So again, I'm just going to line it up and bring it down like that, and those are a couple of scrap pieces. So that is my frame, and then I have a piece of Whisper White ribbon. This is the 1/8 sheer ribbon, and I'm just going to tie it round the edge, the outside edge, and one of the sort of little curly cues here that I have in my cutout, like that. And I'm just going to put a knot in it, she says. Like that, and then in a moment I can trim those ends off. Now, the other thing that I did with my card was to use the Stampin' Blends to colour in, and because I'm using Calypso Coral, I'm going to use those, and for my greens I'm going to use the Old Olive. Now, I'm not going to spend the entire video showing you how to colour in, but I will start, and I can always finish colouring in afterward. So I like to use the brush end, and there's lots of different ways of using the blends, and then you choose whichever works for you. But I find that what works for me is to colour in the whole of my leaf here with the lighter colour. And then I like to go back in and pick out my darker pieces. And like this, just to give the depth, and then maybe go back in and smooth that out. Like that. So there's my leaves, and then for my flowers, again I'm going to start with the paler Calypso Coral, and I'm going to colour in my entire flower, and then I'm going to go in with the darker, and usually flowers kind of have a darker middle when you look at them, and the outer edges tend to be a little on the brighter side. And then I'm just going to sort of blend that in a little bit so that the line isn't quite so sharp. So I would carry on and with my flowers to colour them in, and then just to give them a little bit of a lift, I'm going to use my Wink of Stella. And that just, I think this one's a bit dry. Let's try this one. Oh, that's better. I don't know if you can see. I'll pick it up in a second, and maybe it will just catch the light. Let's see. There you go. I think you can just see the light catching it there. So as I say, I would carry on colouring in. But on this one I'm going to just finish it off for you. So I'm going to put thank you on this one, and I'm going to put it down here like that. And then we're going to use the small Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this piece, and I want to put them where, if you like, they need support. So this thin piece here needs support, and the bottom here, and then I'm going to just kind of edge it with my dimensionals. This piece needs a bit of support there and here, and maybe I'll give a bit here. And then once I've got the support round the edge of my cutout piece, then I'm just gonna go in and fill with the edge on my edges like that. Okay, so then I'm going to take the backing off of all of these like that. Oops, a lively, stubborn little thing, didn't want to come off. If you noticed, I use the edge of my nail to push in, and that just lifts up the edges of the backing and makes it a little bit easier to pull off. And I think we've got all the backs off now. Yep. And then I'm going to put it on, and I'm lining it up over my stamped image. And I'm not going to press down just yet until I'm absolutely happy that it's all lined up. There we go. And then we're going to just trim off the edges of the ribbon because they're a bit distracting here, like that. And then onto my base card, and on this I'm going to use the larger dimensionals. Now you'll see that when I've coloured using the blends, it does bleed through to the back, and this is perfectly normal. It just means that you can't just use it on basically onto your card. You have to have it, set it up so that it's going to be layered onto your backing card, so you don't catch the bleed through. And then I'm just going to layer it onto my card like that. And then once I finish my flowers, that's going to be the end of my card. I do like though to put an inside layer so that it's easy to write. You don't need to have a white pen or anything to write on the Calypso coral. So I'm just going to put a little flower there, and always a decorated envelope, always a decorated envelope. And then a little bit of liquid adhesive, and pop that in the card like that. And we're done. So I'm going to put this one next to it so that you can see the finished one. Now you can do it smaller. So this is using the little stamp that we've just used on the inside of the card, and the smaller die, and you can see that I've just done a smaller version and then mounted it onto the background of the card like that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this technique with the Stamparatus, and also bringing in Stampin' Up's blends. I certainly appreciate you spending time with me today. There'll be a link beneath this video to my online store, as well as to my blog, where you'll find more details on the measurements for the card. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.